Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together, please. Om Agana Timarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Brindavanishwari Vrishabhana Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Today's verse is number 40, first chapter, observing the armies at Kurukshetra. So, please repeat, adharmābhibhavāt, 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 Kṛṣṇa, praduṣyanti, kula-striyaḥ, strīṣu, duṣṭāsu, vṛṣṇeya, jāyate, varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. So, please repeat word for word. Adharma, irreligion. Abhibhavāt, having become predominant. Kṛṣṇa, O Krishna, praduṣyanti, become polluted. Kula-striyaḥ, family ladies. Strīṣu, by the womanhood. duṣṭāsu, being so polluted. Vṛṣṇeya, O descendant of Vṛṣṇi. Jāyate, comes into being. varṇa-saṅkaraḥ, unwanted progeny. So, translation Srila Prabhupada. When irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vṛṣṇi, comes unwanted progeny. Please repeat. When irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vṛṣṇi, comes unwanted progeny. Purport. Good population in human society is the basic principle for peace, prosperity and spiritual progress in life. The varṇāśrama religion's principles were so designed that the good population would prevail in society for the general spiritual progress of state and community. Such population depends on the chastity and faithfulness of its womanhood. As children are very prone to be misled, women are similarly very prone to degradation. Therefore, both children and women require protection by the elder members of the family. By being engaged in various religious practices, women will not be misled into adultery. According to Cāṇakya Paṇḍita, women are generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy. So the different family traditions of religious activities should always engage them, and thus their chastity and devotion will give birth to a good population eligible for participating in the varṇāśrama system. On the failure of such varṇāśrama-dharma, naturally the women become free to act and mix with men, and thus adultery is indulged in at the risk of unwanted population. Irresponsible men also provoke adultery in society, and thus unwanted children flood the human race at the risk of war and pestilence. Om Jnana-timirandasya ganandana salakaya chakshuram militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha mukham karoti vachalam pangam laite girim yadkripatamaham vande dina tarinam. So, adharmābhibhavāt Kṛṣṇa praduṣyanti kula-striyaḥ strīṣu duṣṭāsu vārṣṇeya jāyate varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. When irreligion is prominent in the family, O Kṛṣṇa, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vṛṣṇi, comes unwanted progeny. So here Arjuna is giving all his arguments to support his feeling not to fight. Right? So I thought, to get the full picture, we'll look at his whole arguments. Because if we just look at one verse, that's okay. But we'll get the full perspective. So, observing the armies. So we've seen the landscape at Kurukshetra. We've seen the big battlefield. All the Kauravas and the Pandavas are there, millions. It's a big flat area, Kurukshetra. And they're all lined up to fight. So last week we were discussing how Arjuna, his life airs were completely disturbed. So that is the landscape. But now we'll understand the mindscape, the mind of Arjuna. So that starts on 32-35. O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? So that's one argument, right? He's a very generous soul, isn't he? He thinks that what a kingdom is for those that we love, right? O Madhusudan, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? So now he's moved on. First argument was, all these people, they're the ones that I would want to enjoy within the kingdom. Then the second thing is, I don't want to kill them. That's another argument. They're all interrelated. And then the third on this is, I don't want to kill them, but also what pleasure will we derive from killing the sons? There'll be no pleasure in it. Even though we know from the Mahabharata, Arjuna and the Pandavas particularly, they were always being harassed and murder attempts were tried upon them. But still he's thinking, what pleasure? So he's not revengeful. He's not thinking in terms of revenge. This shows a good character. And you can see all his arguments are generous. All these people, I would like them to enjoy the kingdom with me, but now I've got to get the kingdom by killing them. So they're all very generous arguments. It shows his mentality. And then sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. So this is the intelligent person. He understands that there's going to be a reaction to my action. Activity can be viewed in terms of the reaction. And this is natural, right? Even the criminal, he thinks that if I steal from this house or this bank, the police will come for me and they may throw me in the jail, right? So Arjuna is saying here, sin will overcome us. That means he doesn't think he can escape the reaction. It will overcome us. It's not that we can avoid it. The criminal will always think, I can avoid the reaction. I can escape the reaction. The police will not catch me. I'm doing this at night. No one is seeing me. But Prabhupada, in one lecture, he deals with this argument by saying, well, the moon is seeing you, the devas are seeing you. Because people, criminal types, they are thinking this is just impersonal energy. But in Vaishnavism, we understand that the ultimate aspect of everything is personal. The moon has a devata, the sun has a devata, the wind has vayu, so on and so forth. And they are all perfectly cognizant. They are empowered by Kṛṣṇa to rule over different material elements. And they are seeing everything. And I was listening to one recently that the Satanists, now there's a lot of discussion about Satanists trying to degrade human society, and they perform human and animal sacrifices, and they plan to reduce the population. So they have an idea that if they release their plans beforehand, then they will not get a reaction. But that is ridiculous. Do you understand? I'm going to kill you, so therefore I tell you first, and then I'm not going to get a reaction. I'm going to rob the bank. So I tell the bank manager I'm going to rob the bank the day before or a week before, and then the police won't come after me. And if they do catch me and I'm put in front of the judge, to the judge I will say, I told everyone I was going to rob the bank. How can you throw me in the jail? They knew I was going to rob it, so it's their fault that they didn't stop me. Right? This is the argument of the Satanists. Oh, we're going to depopulate the world. It's there in Agenda 21 and Agenda 30 of the United Nations. But now we're telling people that we want, so when we actually depopulate the world through poisonous food and dangerous chemical vaccines and so on, then we will be free of the reaction. So this is just tomfoolery. In English they say tomfoolery, foolish, messing around, and it certainly doesn't work, right? Like I say, if you say to the judge, I told everyone that I told that person I was going to steal his car, so therefore why should I get a reaction? So the good person, the intelligent person, thinks the reaction will come. But the criminal mentality thinks that, no, I can avoid the reaction. But even if you're not caught by the police, it will come to you in a different way. You steal somebody's car, then your car may be in an accident, it may be broken down, it may be stolen. So this is the law of karma. And if it is understood properly, it is a great policing force. It is a great disciplining force, because people behave nicely. What to speak of the negative behavior, but the good behavior. If I do good for others, then good will come to me. If I'm charitable to others and generous, then charity and generosity will come back to me. So this is natural knowledge, actually, when we consider the criminal. He knows action, I'm going to rob the bank. And then he thinks there'll be a reaction. But he doesn't think in a very scientific way. He just thinks the police will come after me. He doesn't think that it's perfectly balanced. What I do, I will get. As they say in America, what goes around comes around, right? They have many things. As you sow, so you shall reap, says in the Bible.
Newton's third law.
Huh?
Newton's third law.
Sorry?
Newton's third law, action and
yes, to every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Yeah, energy and matter, they cannot be destroyed. It will
transfer from one point to other point.
Yes, it can just move from one point to the other. So yes, that's Newton's third law, is it? That for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Yes. If I throw a ball from this chair, then the energy that I put in the chair will be, in the ball, will be in the chair in an opposite way. So the universe is in balance. And this is natural knowledge, but with the Vedas it's very precise. The understanding is very clear. And that's very interesting you bring that up. So people in the modern day, they may think, oh yes, Newton's third law, that applies to an asteroid in space, or it applies to a lever. I'm lifting something by a lever, action and reaction. But they think that it doesn't apply to me. Right? It applies to the physical world, but not to me. Do you see the point? That I can do anything and there'll be no reaction. But the action and reaction is just according to the chemicals in the glass and whatever, the physical world. But I'm not part of that, I'm separate. So this means they think they're God. Right? Because Kṛṣṇa is above action and reaction. Right? So they're taking a godlike posture. That action and reaction, that happens in the universe. But me, I'm separate. So remember what we were discussing previously. That in the material world, people come to the material world, they want to be the supreme. So this is the sign of it, this kind of thinking, that action and reaction won't affect me. I'm the supreme. And those that go to the spiritual world, they go there and enjoy ecstatic bliss. But lokoyam karma bandhana, Kṛṣṇa explains to people in this world. But they think, oh, I will be liberated. But this is the sinful people. Arjuna's not thinking like that. He's thinking sin will overcome us. And actually Prabhupada mentioned Cāṇakya Paṇḍita. I read his Niti Shastra. And in there, Niti means morality. And it's also advice for kings and political sphere. And in that Niti Shastra, he says that a king or an emperor or somebody in position should be very careful how he treats his ministers. Because for sure, if he mistreats his ministers, say I'm the king and I treat you badly and I treat you badly, then that will come back to me. This is Cāṇakya Paṇḍita's advice to kings. That if you're in a high position, don't think that you can behave. That's often tyrants, is it not? They think, oh, I'm very powerful and now I can treat people badly, but because of my power nothing can happen. But we see, right, so many tyrants. Alexander the Great, he become Alexander the Nothing. So we see in the 20th century, Stalin and all these terrible people, they all come down. They all think that power, I will overcome reaction, I will continue. But then they come down. Just like Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, all these people, they think they're so powerful, but then in one day, they're finished, right? Often that's the case, right? The mafia boss, he's usually killed by his lieutenants who want his position. There's an expression, I think it's in Shakespeare, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. When you're the king, you may sleep at night, but you feel uneasy because everybody else wants to be the supreme, right? But Arjuna is not wanting to be the supreme. You see the devotee's mentality. Yudhisthira was happy to stay in the forest, but Krishna wanted him to be the king because he was a devotee and he would look after the people nicely. So here's Arjuna showing how a devotee, his good-heartedness and his knowledge. Therefore it is not proper to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain? He's talking about reaction again. O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune. It's interesting, he calls Krishna the husband of the goddess of fortune. He says, you have all the money, you know, you're very opulent. What would we gain? You are husband of the goddess of fortune, all opulence is at your command. And how could we be happy by killing our own kinsman? That's what he's repeating, what he said there. How can we be happy? What pleasure will I get? So he's thinking in action and reaction. Oh, Janardhan. Yes, Janardhan means, what? Oh, Krishna. Although these men, their hearts overcome by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? Right? So again, it's action and reaction. And just like we were just saying, all these men overcome by greed see no fault. They don't see any fault. So there's 6 afflictions of the mind: lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, and envy. These are the 6 afflictions. Krishna says that lust, anger, and greed, these are the gates to hell. So, yes, those things are there, and they're overcome, right? Duryodhana, he was overcome by greed, trying to become the king. But fate was against him, but he was trying in every way. They see no fault. So that's like the criminals, like the mafia hitman or anyone. He says, I had to kill that other mafia boss, and it wasn't my fault, it was, he deserved it. You understand? Right? They don't find fault. You killed him. No, he deserved it. So you go in front of the judge and you say to the judge, he says, why did you kill that man? He said, well, because he deserved it. And then the judge will say to you, no, I'm going to send you to prison for the rest of your life because you deserve it. So that's not a very good argument. Why did you break into the bank and steal the money? Because the bank's got too much money. They're charging too much interest on the loans they give. No, that's not a good argument. You can't blame the other person for your own actions. So he's saying, yes, Arjuna, Duryodhana is a bad guy, and he's overcome by greed, and he's seeing no fault. But we who understand this, the pious people, they understand that this is a crime. Why should we do it? Right? Why should I act like him? Right? He's a criminal, he's a bad person, he's greedy, but why should I follow his activity? Right? So that's another argument. And then we come to with the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. Yeah, the destruction of the dynasty, by this war and battle, all the great leaders, Bhishma, Dronacharya, so many kings came from everywhere to fight. When all these great protectors of Dharma are destroyed, then all the family traditions will be destroyed. This is a reference, of course, to Pinda, right? This is a Karmakanda ritual that the forefathers are maintained in Pritriloka by the ritual offering of Pinda. So if that's destroyed, the forefathers will come out of Pritriloka, heavenly situation, and what to speak of this planet, that's what today's verse is about. And if the traditions of the family are gone, when irreligion is prominent in the family, O Kṛṣṇa, the women of the family become polluted. Right? So if all these great kings and great leaders are killed, the women will be unprotected. And then they'll become degraded, and illicit sex will come, and then varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. Varṇa-saṅkaraḥ means unwanted population. That means badly conceived. Because in the Vedic prescription, according to the mentality of the man and the woman at the time of conception, a corresponding soul will be attracted. If the man and woman are irreligious, if they're in a drunken state, then a soul with that kind of karma will be attracted, a low-standing soul. But if during the time of conception the man and woman, they've performed yajna, they've been chanting, they're living they're married properly, they respect each other, they're living in a clean environment, the right conjunctions are there, then a high soul will be attracted to the womb of the woman. So this is Vedic science. But if the women become low class by having many lovers and so on and so forth, then there will be low class progeny. And then Arjuna again says the reaction of this will be an increase of unwanted population certainly causes hellish life. Unwanted means varṇa-saṅkaraḥ. Children that are not wanted. Because the Vedic yajna for calling a child, the married couple, they want the child. So they're chanting, they're offering arti to Kṛṣṇa beforehand, and then they're trying to conceive in a very nice, pure-hearted, spiritual manner. But if the women are degraded, Arjuna says, then low-class souls will be born. And then what will happen? It will cause hellish life for both the family in which they're born, right? If people have a bad son or a bad girl, who becomes a bank robber or a thief or a mafia, this causes very disturbance. The mother and father, they love the child, but the child becomes a criminal. So much tension, right? They have to spend all their money on lawyers' fees trying to get them out of the clink, out of the prison. So it disturbs the whole family. So the whole family will be destroyed. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down. This is again the Pinda idea. because the performance for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. They do this at Keshi. I've seen them doing it. Some families, they sit there and they have a Brahmin, they perform a yajna, and they offer pinda. What is in the pinda? It's a kind of sesame seed or
barley.
Barley, yeah.
Barley.
Huh? Flour and barley, and they offer water there. They do it.
Barley, flour, and water.
They offer. So they offer it to Kṛṣṇa, then they offer it to the forefathers.
No, that is there was they said direct. It will go to Pitraloka.
Oh yes. So they do that at Keshi, and you do that every year, correct?
So one may come today, the other man come 10 days later. No fixed day.
Yeah, the Brahmins will know all the different, according to Shastra. So that is karma kanda. That is action and reaction. They're offering some, and they're trying to get a good reaction. Because this Bhumandala section is called karma bhumi. Activities performed in Bhumandala are very potent. If you become pious, if you live, say, 70, 80 years, and you're very pious, then you can live thousands of years in heaven. But if you're very impious, you live a bad life in the mafia, then you'll spend thousands of years in the lower planets. So, the lower planets, they may have opulence, but they have great anxiety. That is the thing. So, this is Arjuna's arguments. Right. By the evil deeds of those who destroy the family tradition, now he's saying it's evil to destroy the family tradition, and thus give rise to unwanted children, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated. So he says it's evil to kill all these people. It's an evil deed. You're asking me, Kṛṣṇa, to do an evil deed, or you're not asking me at this point. He's just taking him in front of the army. But he's saying it's evil to do this. So he's a pacifist, right? And then community projects, family welfare activities. So that means not only the family is destroyed and become corrupt, but the welfare projects and community projects, you know, because they're Kshatriyas, so they are doing community projects, building wells, making irrigation, helping the farmers, and so on and so forth, giving cows to people who need it and helping them. So that will be destroyed too. Not just the family, but the general society. O Kṛṣṇa, maintainer of the people, I have heard by disciplic succession that those whose family traditions are destroyed dwell always in hell. So now he's coming to his real point. He's saying, Kṛṣṇa, I'm going to go to hell because it's an evil deed. That will be my reaction. Alas, how strange it is that we are preparing to commit greatly sinful acts. Driven by the desire to enjoy royal happiness, we are intent on killing our own kinsmen. Better for me, this is very dramatic now, this is, if the sons of Dhritarashtra, weapons in hand, were to kill me unharmed and unresisting on the battlefield. It's better I die on the battlefield without arms and unresisting, a perfect pacifist. Pacifist. He doesn't want to do anything. It's better I die like this. Sanjay said, Arjuna, having thus spoken on the battlefield, cast aside his bow and arrows and sat down on the chariot, his mind overwhelmed with grief. So these are all the arguments, and it's good to have them understood nice and clearly, because Kṛṣṇa will answer all these arguments one by one. He will explain. For example, he says, you're not killing anyone, Arjuna, because the soul is eternal. But ultimately, Arjuna, the answer is, and you see, this sounds very powerful, does it not? It sounds, when we read this, Arjuna is apparently saying he's giving many good arguments, right? When you hear it, it sounds convincing. Yeah, that's true, it's bad. Now this is an important philosophical point to understand. The Maya Shakti, because it's an emanation from Kṛṣṇa, has potency to convince you. You understand? Because it is an emanation from Kṛṣṇa, so it has that ability to make you think yes. And the Maya Shakti has two aspects. They're called prasanatmika buddhi, subtle aspects, and avaranatmika buddhi. Prasatmika buddhi means throwing potency. It means it can make you think a certain thing, material. It'll make you think that. It'll give you a false opinion, like Arjuna's, but avaranatmika means that it will cover your intelligence so that you think your opinion is correct. You understand? Just like these United Nations people, they want to depopulate the world. They have this opinion. But they also think that that opinion is correct. You see the point? Everybody is like this. If we got rid of all the Bengalis in Vrindavan, Vrindavan would be a better place. Sorry. Right? So that's a false opinion. It wouldn't be a better place. But the person who says that kind of thing, he's convinced. So you get, prasanatmika means you get a false opinion, but then avaranatmika means it's correct, you think. So all these people that think, oh, if the government just legalized marijuana so everyone could speak marijuana, this would be better for the nation. You see, all politicians, they propose this, they propose this, and they're very convincing because they're convinced. They also think it's correct. So that is the potency of Maya. That she has the potency to make you think, I'm this body. Right? Ultimately, what is the root of Maya? Ahankara. And ahankara means aham mameti. That this body is me, and that things related to this body, my personal paraphernalia, my family, my nature, these are mine. Right? So this is the root of Maya. But people are convinced it's correct. But the Maya Shakti has this potency naturally, intrinsically, because it is coming from Kṛṣṇa. And Kṛṣṇa is the absolute truth, so it appears to be true. But it is a lower truth, you see. So what Kṛṣṇa is going to give to Arjuna is, he's going to give the higher truth, the spiritual understanding. You understand? And that will free Arjuna from the lower understanding. So we should always understand this, that people in the material world think they're doing the right thing. Like I say, the criminal thinks, I'm killing the mafia boss, so I can be boss, because I'd be a better boss. I'm doing the right thing, all right? We have to go to Vietnam and kill all those people to save the world from communism. Right? We have to destroy this town so it's safe from communist. So this, right? All the politicians in history, right? Alexander the Great, the Romans, the British Empire, now the Americans, they're all thinking, yes, the Americans, when it's voting time, they say, we are the greatest nation in the world, and we're going to save the world for democracy, by democracy. And if you don't like democracy, we're going to blow you to hell. Right? And this will be good for you. So this is the Maya Shakti. It gives you false ideas, but it makes you think they're correct. That's why it's, when you talk to people, it's very hard sometimes, because they think that they're correct. You understand? Of course, politicians often say things they don't believe because they want to get the vote, right? So that is the duplicity of politics. But devotees should avoid that. But that is the nature. But once one contacts Kṛṣṇa and he starts to realize Kṛṣṇa, he sees the fault in the material energy. He sees it's lower, you see. And that's one of Kṛṣṇa's basic points, for example. He says, you're not killing anyone because the soul is eternal. Right? So this destroys the argument. But the next argument that Kṛṣṇa gives is, no, you've got to do your duty. These people, they are sinful. And you as a Kshatriya, actually, if you leave them in power, the people, the praja of the kingdom, they'll become more exploited. But if Yudhisthira is in charge, then a good kingdom will arise. So, and you must do your duty, but then ultimately Kṛṣṇa says, do your duty as an offering to me. You must do your duty in a devotional way because I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then right at the end of the Gita he explains, but ultimately Arjuna, forget about your dharma, your varṇāśrama, your material duties, and do it in a mood of surrender as my devotee, because this is what I want to be done. Right? That's the highest argument. So Kṛṣṇa will defeat the lower ideas with the higher idea. And so therefore, how do you overcome people who think I'm the body and material life is good, and they think, oh, you Hare Krishnas, yes, you have your life, your way of thinking. Oh, you Jewish people, you have your way of thinking. Oh, you Christian people, you have your way of thinking. Oh, the Mayavadis, they have their way of, the Muslims have their way of thinking. Yes, we should all live together and allow each other. This is kind of, it's all one. We should just allow. Everything is okay. There was even a book, I'm okay, you're okay. My mother told me she was going to write another book. She said, I'm okay, you're not okay. Because generally that's what people really think, right? I'm a Muslim, you're not a Muslim, I'm okay, you're not okay, right? I'm a Christian, you're not a Christian, you're not okay. I'm Jewish, you're not okay because you're a Goyim, like this. So this is what people think. So people, as a solution, they think, we should just accept everyone. But that is against human nature, because human nature analyzes. But anyway, the main point is, how do you bring people to the spiritual platform? Because the Vedas don't just give material solutions, they give the experience of the Supreme. They don't give just faith, they give experience. And that is, that's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that there's 3 levels of teaching. The Vedas. The first level is people should hear kirtan and they should take Krishna Prasad. The next level is philosophy. they can discuss what we're discussing now. You're all devotees. You're chanting, you're accomplished in the philosophy. So that philosophy is not for somebody on the lower platform. Like I say, they will just say, oh, just believe, just be friendly, just be nice, accept everyone. Huh? Well, what do you mean? I should accept this man, he's a criminal. I should accept this cheating man. This man is a murderer. It's okay, everyone is okay. No, that is against intelligent. Some things are good, some things are bad. But then that accepting and rejecting is misapplied in the material world. The real thing is that spiritual life is good and material life is bad. Because material life will give you birth, death, old age and disease. The material people, they want pleasure externally for their senses. But the spiritual people, they want pleasure internally for the soul. Right? And they get bliss. Kṛṣṇa, the name of Kṛṣṇa means he who is full of bliss and therefore attracts everyone. That is Jiva Goswami in the Gopal Champu. So, and then the third level of understanding the Vedas is the pastimes of Kṛṣṇa, the transcendental Leela. The affairs of Gokul, Goloka, the loving affairs between Radha and Kṛṣṇa, the mood of Lord Chaitanya. They're the highest aspect. So, I have seen that personally. In London, I spent a lot of time in the London Temple downtown, and we used to have a lunch program. We would give people prasad and then we'd have chanting. Well, we'd have chanting, a class, short class, and we'd give prasad. And those people that started beads, chanting on beads, we had a little common room upstairs, and people would sometimes take beads. They became devotees. And they would come back to the temple and ask questions. So the mantra, the prasadam and the mantra, that acts. And then people think, right, they get realization, the mantra acts. Just like I remember when I started chanting, I used to like going hiking in the country. So somebody gave me a Back to Godhead magazine, and it said, chant Hare Krishna and you'll be high forever. So I thought, okay, I'll try it. So I went, when I used to go chanting, walking in the forests, in the mountains in England, camping, I started chanting. And then I thought, wow, this is amazing. I really like this chanting. It's very good. I would chant all day. I was walking along in the forest. So the mantra acts because it's Kṛṣṇa, and it's blissful, and so you always get a little bliss even at the beginning, you see. And then you can understand the philosophy of this material world, and then you can understand rasa tattva, the spiritual world. And that's what it says in the Upanishad. You should understand the material world with its devas, and you should understand the spiritual world. And then you will go to the spiritual world. So it all starts with the mantra and prasadam. Of course, Duryodhana's not going to take any prasadam or start chanting. He's like Shishupala and Dantavakra. They have a mentality, attitude problem, just like we discussed. Two people, they go into an art gallery, and one says, that's a beautiful painting. Who's the painter? And the other person says, there's no painter. So that's like people looking at this world and say, it's an amazing creation. Who is the creator? And one person says, there's no creator. It's an attitude problem. Atheism is an attitude problem. Obviously, if there's a creation, there's a creator. But if you have an attitude problem, you never admit it, right? Just like football fans. One set of fans said, Inter Milan is the greatest team. And the other football fan says, no, AC Milan is the best team. And they've adopted attitude. It doesn't matter if AC Milan is on the bottom of the table and Inter Milan is the top. The AC Milan fans will always say, no, we're the best team. Yes, you're having a bit of good luck. You're paying the referee, but we're a better team, right? So people always think they're right. So the mantra and prasadam has the potency. That's why it's said in the Bhagavatam, Kalodosha nidera chan este eka mahadguna ketanad eva Kṛṣṇasya mukta sangha parambrajat. That Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, but there's one great thing, that by kirtan, chanting and discussing Kṛṣṇa, mukta, you become liberated. So always remember that. If you want to make a devotee, you can talk and talk and talk, but if you get them to chant Hare Krishna, then they will become devotee. Right? Because that's the first step. So anyway, we've discussed Arjuna, his arguments now, and we'll see how Krishna conquers this Maya with spiritual knowledge. Thank you all very much. Any questions? Rahul, last time you had...
I was attending a marriage between it. That's why I have not come here.
Questions? No? Everyone satisfied?
Yes.
Huh?
Satisfied.
Huh?
Satisfied.
So, action and reaction, devotee understands it very nicely, is compassionate, but non-devotees, because of their attitude problem, they think, I'll be free, I'm the supreme, I can overcome reaction. So we'll finish on that point. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada, Bhagavad Gita, Sadhu Sangha, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai.